So, as Jenny said, we have a variety of programs at the Historical Society, and there's an inspiration for a lot of them. Some people have a passion for a particular thing. Other people have an expertise. Other people just want to, showcase what they know and they do. The inspiration for this event was a can of Budweiser and a television set. It was August. I was still recovering from a detached retina, and all I could do was sit on my rear end watching TV. And it's kind of every guy's dream to be able to sit on your rear end and drink beer and watch TV. But try doing that for for 10 weeks. I mean, but regardless, I was flipping through the stations and I stumbled on the Little League World Series. And I took a sip of my beer, and it dawned on me, we've got a story right here in town that many people don't know about. And we still have, unlike dead whaling captains, we still have all but 2 of the team from that historic time. And most of them are here today, still alive. Still kicking. And so I just want to tee it off by saying today would be a great time, I believe, to just have, a bit of stories. I had more fun on Monday with most of you guys than I've had in years. I really mean it. I came home and I said to my wife, Cindy, I haven't had a belly laugh like that day in a long, long time. And I hope all of you do as well. And before I turn it over to this group of reprobates, I just want to flatter myself and say that I believe that one of the all-stars that is here today benefited from me. I think I led him down the hitting path of the to his career as an all-star. It was probably what, Bobby, 1963, 64. His mother, Thelma, dropped Bobby off. I was 10, he was 11 or 12, and 2 mothers drove off to do what mothers do, get away from their sons for a while. And I don't know, we were bored. It was a sunny day, it was a summertime, there was a baseball bat, and there were 2 bushels of nice, ripe tomatoes that my father had in the bag that wanted to, he wanted to sell at the store. So we looked at each other, and I mean, tomatoes, bat, 2 boys, no adult supervision, what could go wrong? When the mothers came back, we had tomatoes in our hair, in our ears, probably in our underwear. I have no idea, but regardless, I think that your hitting and your road to the All-Stars started with those 2 baskets of tomatoes. So, with that, what I would like to do is just start off with something to prompt you guys. Okay, try to move the microphone around as best you can, but don't worry about being formal. I talked to Tommy Hancock this morning, and Tommy is 89, mobility issues, unfortunately, and he was not able to come today. But he was instrumental in getting the minor league system going in Westport, which brought all of us up through into the Little League, into the Pony League, into high school and beyond. And what he wanted me to say to the group and to get you guys going a little bit is your game between yourselves and Canton when you were in Somerset. I guess you played in Somerset. He said he watched hundreds of Little League games throughout the years, and he said it was the finest Little League game he had ever seen. Absolutely the finest. 9 innings, no runs, no hits. Paul Eastwood, you pitched 9 innings because the rules didn't let you go past 6. But in a tournament play, with no with a 0-0 score, you could go another 3 innings, and then Billy Jalbert jumped in. So I'm going to just set you up with that, but then the crowd just wants to hear your stories, and then after that, let's open it up to some Q&A, and then we'll call it a day. So, who wants to start? You. There you go.
I would have to say that the whole run that we had was incredible. There were a lot of very close games that took place. As a matter of fact, the first game we played, I think it was against Somerset, was 5-4 in extra innings. And if you read through a lot of the stuff we have up here in our scrapbooks, you'll notice that a lot of the games were very close. There was only one game that we really had under control, which was 5-1, and that was the biggest spread that we had. All the other games ended in very close games with game-ending double plays, and we had a really good, I feel, defense in combination. I remember the game that Al was just talking about, that it started getting tiresome in the 8th and 9th innings, and they were hitting a lot of long balls, and luckily enough I had some good outfielders that were able to catch them, because they were hitting balls that were out close to the fence in the outfield. And I think the outfield is what kind of basically saved that game for us. And there's other games too that one I particularly remember is the game we played. We faced Taunton, and we only beat them 1-0. And they gave a lot of credit to this very strong baseball player. His name was Steve Falkick, and the Taunton paper read, Falkick, the Taunton pitcher, pitched without doubt one of the finest games ever witnessed in this city during All-Star competition. And that was, Taunton had a very good team. They had between them 45 home runs in the season, and they had one of the best pitchers in the league, and we were able to substantiate ourselves and go with a 1-0 win. And that game ended on a game-ending double play that went, basically we held the runner at third base, which was Frolic, the good player, and threw to first for the out, and then Carl Zajac threw to home plate, and Manny cut the ball, put the tag on him, and that ended the game, 1-0 in Taunton. So there were games like that throughout the series, and I'd like to pass that on to some of the guys who can add to that.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting us and getting this, down on record. Long time ago, 59 years ago, was when this summer was, and I was reading my scrapbook this morning just to come up with some of the details that Paul was talking about. And I think as you think about these things as time goes on, we needed to thank our parents. We needed to thank our mothers for putting these books together. And the reason why we can go back to these books is because they were with us the whole time, put together. And we really need to thank the Little League. Mr. Zajac, Carl's dad, was the president of the Little League. Mr. Buzia was the manager, and they were with us the whole time. The town was behind us. We went to one game. I forget exactly what game it was, but they said there was 1,200 people at the game. It might have been that 1-0 game. 1,200 people at a Little League game. So there were a lot of people that followed us, and we had a lot of close games. One thing about this team, everybody contributed. Everybody had some hand in doing something. JoJo hitting a home run in the state finals. Steve Petty had a home run. No, not in the state finals, but it was bounced in. Right, Billy Jalbert had a home run.
It was back-to-back too, right?
Back-to-back. And Paul mentioned we ended 2 games with back-to-back double plays. And the one game we had pretty much under control was 5-1, but they had the bases loaded with 1 out in the 6th inning. So they were getting steam. He hit a ground ball back to the pitcher. Paul got the ball, threw to Zajac, threw to me, and then on another time, the ball went to the pitcher, came home, and we got him out at first. So it was some great memories back in those days. And turn it over to somebody else.
Well, I'll make it short and sweet. what I remember of these guys hitting home runs and some of the others, I was a cheerleader, okay? I was one of a few that were a little bit younger than some of these guys, and so we went along for the ride, and it was so exciting just watching games end up with a home run winning the game, and the pitching that was going on. So I do remember that, and I actually do have a bunch of stuff at the house that I keep. That picture behind us, I still have that. So it was something to see. And one of my favorite things was riding in the fire engine after we won the state championship, just waving at everybody. So that's about it for me. Who else?
Okay, I'm going to start off with the last game we won, and that was the championship game over there.
3-2.
And it was a 0-0 thing going on, and nobody was getting anywhere. And anyways, I was coming to bat, and Paul Eastwood tells me this guy is throwing him high and outside. Now Petty just got that. He had a double, I guess, on that. Should have been a home run, but he had a double.
Rolled in instead of rolling.
Yeah. So he says he's throwing him high and outside. Get ready. And of course, I missed the first one, and then, but I tagged that second one, and it went to center field, and they had a brand new sign up there for this brand new fields, right? They got a dent in there now, in the middle between Little and League. We put a dot on it because then it bounces back in the field, right? Then I'm already rounding first base, and I'm going like, So is that a home run, or is it a double, or is it, what is it, or should I get running? So about 2/3 the way to second base, the coach says, okay, the umpire said it's a home run. I jumped right the heck over the second base. Missed it. It was like 3 feet below me. I had to turn around and come back and hit second base. Otherwise, I'd have been called out, right? Then hit third and came home, and right behind that was when Jalbert hit his home run, right? Yep. We won that game on 3 bang bang bangs, but it wasn't just us. We had to put our touch on it because almost everybody else on this tour, I guess, did so many wonderful things. It was our turn to do it, and we did. So it was something I thought it was the best thing. Now, the only thing I can remember very good is when Paul hit his home run in the 12th inning. Just before him, Zajac got a Texas leaguer into right field, I believe. He almost broke his leg on first base. Remember, he fell down and everything else. Anyways, Paul gets up, and then Darcy, about a couple pitches in, Paul takes a swing, and it was like for the fences. Going, right? And the next pitch, Darcy says, it's coming up, and it's coming up now. It's going to happen. Pow! They never found that ball. It went over the fence like 100 yards, it seemed like, literally, and it ended up in a swamp. And I don't think anybody ever found that ball. I would have loved to have got that ball back. But so that was so it was so many exciting times. Could you tell us what positions you all played? Sure. I was left field, second base, center field. You either pitched or played third mostly, right? Manny caught, thank God. And Bobby played right field, and sometimes you pitched or just right field, right? So Jalbert, I guess, pitched, and he also played right field. Jimmy Ford played right field or played first base, I think, sometimes. It all depends on if you were pitching or not, how the field shifted around a lot, right, in Zajac. So it was kind of funny. But we played just about. The only thing I was kind of sorry about, some of the kids, I guess, didn't play too much. But, we were so close on our games, we couldn't afford to have a problem in the last minute kind of thing. So, but it was quite an adventure. And the only thing I can really remember is when Pee Wee did that play, we're taught to do exactly opposite that, right?
Yeah.
Don't do this. And you went to home with it.
No, I went to third.
Oh, third, yeah. Took the guy out. And then we had a double play in that one too, wasn't there? Or was that when it was it, right?
The next guy up.
The next guy up, yeah.
That was a 12-inning game.
Yep. Yeah, and we could have lost it because of that. Had he not done that, we would have lost the game before then, right? And that would have been the end of that. So everybody did something. So it was good. Come on, babe.
Well, I'm old and I don't remember a heck of a lot, except from the memories like everybody else. I played center field, JoJo played left field, and there wasn't much that got by us. We kind of even scooched over a little bit to cover part of right field too. Nobody knows that, but
They do now.
I think you have to remember that Westport was a small town at the time. We only had four teams in our little league
How many
that
people were in
played
town at that time? About 5,000, 7,000, somewhere in there, right?
5 to 7, I think.
8,000 or 9,000.
That was it, it was a small town.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a cutoff. You had to be, I think, 13 years old, and then there was a cutoff where kids couldn't play in the tournament, and we had a lot of other good players that were in our little league conference. A lot of real good ones that just missed the cutoff. So we were lucky just to be in that small age parameter that allowed us to play. And like I said, there were a lot of kids that were a little bit, just months older, that couldn't participate in the tournaments. But there were a lot of special moments. We got to meet Tony Conigliaro. Yeah. We had special days up at Fenway Park, and we got to meet Dick Raditz and.
How about Yastrzemski, right?
And Yastrzemski.
He had like 3 hairs coming out of his chest.
Yeah, so we get to do a lot of special things, and
Got to go to Fenway Park for a game.
got to go to Fenway Park for a game, and I remember buses that used to go up to the games. They were looking to collect money to get buses to drive parents and people up to the tournament games, and staying overnight in Orange, where we tended to fool around a little bit and not get some rest. And I think JoJo was the ringleader of that whole thing.
I don't know about ringleader. All I remember is they told us, well, you farmers are not going to win anything because you're not getting any rest at all. Then the next day we whooped their butt. Want to bet? Apparently you don't know nothing about farming, do you?
Bobby, you got something? Just pass it down, Bobby.
Thank you. Great to be here. Honor. It was winning that with these group of gentlemen who played fantastically. Everybody had something. I was thinking the other day, JoJo on his hitting and his fielding. Same thing with Steve. He almost always got a hit. I think he was one of the top hitters. Pee Wee, great hitter, great player, always bending down, so you had to hit his knees. About here. So they had a real hard time, as we did just in the regular Little League games. Paul with his pitching, fantastic. Manny never letting anything get by. Zajax with his curves and everything else. But it was a great time. It was so darn exciting. And I was thinking this the other day. I said, Jesus, it was so much fun, but there was so much anxiety. It probably took 5 years off my life. But then I think it probably added 5 years to my life, because it was just a darn good feeling coming home, the police having the sirens going and everything. When we got to White's, I think once we got out of Fall River, but I could be wrong on that.
The state police met us first.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd say I don't remember that. But last thing, Albert, he made me do that with the tomatoes. I told him no. He said, hell, my old man, we'll do it. So we smashed 2 bushels of them. The only thing that I really can remember that was funny, and you'll have to look at the pictures, look at a guy by the name of Johnny White. If you see him, he's in a photo. And he's making a face. I don't know if he was making it on purpose or it just came out that way. But when we were at the state championship, I was standing there with 2 of the coaches. I can't remember if it was one of ours and one of theirs or whatever. And it was in a school, and I looked way down, just like at the high school, the long corridors. And here's Johnny White running, and he's running fast. And the reason was there was a whole team behind him that wanted to kill him. And he just came running up. The coach said, "What's going on?" John said nothing. And he just stood there, and all the other guys, the team, standing there like, "We want to kill you." So that's something that I've always remembered. And I tried to get hold of John, but I couldn't get hold of him. So, thank you.
I paid Johnny back because one game I was pitching those guys. He was on the Braves, I think, right?
Yes.
I hit him twice. The second time he said, "JoJo, don't hit me again, will you?" "Oh, no, I ain't gonna hit you." Boom, right in the back. It was so Well, he was small. He was hard to pitch to. So, hey, hit him. Get on base.
This has been great. Paul and I, yes. Yeah. Paul and I were both on the Red Sox at the same time. He was the older guy. I was the younger one. But we both have one thing in common. We both survived Mike Andrus. He was a tough coach, but a good one, and created all the guys and all the teams. And you're talking about Westport being a small place at the time. If it weren't for the Little League, because of the way the schools were set up, none of you guys would have met each other until we went to 7th grade, necessarily. I mean, it could have been, maybe at church or some other thing, but basically it was the baseball field that brought the town together. And so with that, I would like to open it up to any questions, comments, or snide remarks that anybody would like to have. And please speak into the microphone because this is being recorded. So I'll be Vanna White here and give it to Tony to start us.
Is this going by age? Is that why I got it first?
No, my mother would be first.
I just want to say the reason I'm here is I was 4 years older than this group, but very active in sports. One of the few folks, I guess, in that era that were able to play baseball because if you were a dairy farmer, it conflicted quite a bit. And it was very impressive. We had some good teams, but we didn't have this kind of ability that these folks had. And Manny touched briefly on the idea of the participation by families and the town getting behind it. I think you mentioned, Manny, 1,000. When you think that we're 8,000 or 9,000 at the time, that's a lot of people. And most of those folks were fishermen and farmers. So although these guys could have a nice game and stay there sometimes overnight, we'd go back to do our chores and do our work and be back the next day. So we're driving back and forth. But what impressed me is every game there was more people than the previous game. We might have started off maybe with 300. But I don't know what the final numbers were, but it was extremely impressive. The community came together. And it was really easy to talk about baseball to people that didn't even understand the game to some degree, but they wanted their sons and they wanted their daughters to get involved in softball. And if they wanted to go hardball, they supported them in that. But it really brought a community together in a big way. Al talked about the high school. I think that was part of it because there wasn't time for people to participate beyond the school day and their family responsibilities. These gentlemen did a lot more than just win ball games. They really brought a community together for a number of years, and it was pretty impressive. And I want to thank you for that. It was fun. The one thing I remember, Bobby, about you in particular, there was a lot of concern. I can't even remember. I think it was diabetes or something you were fighting at the time, and it was so hot. We were playing. You guys were playing in some games that were, it was difficult to sit in the heat out there, and they were quite concerned. People were taking bets if you were going to be able to survive in the outfield, or if you needed to get a shot, or they were trying to time it. And I could go each one of you folks, and I'm sure a number of folks that have gray hair like me in the community could do the same, and talk about what Paul. I mean, I can see Porky across the street talking about what your next game's going to be. It was a neighbor. We call him Porky, Paul Parquette. We go on and on with these names, but you guys have done such a tremendous job for our community in ways that you probably don't realize how you touched our community and brought them together. And I want to thank you. That's the reason I'm here today.
Thank you, Tony. Betty?
I'd like to hear about your coaches. You must have had very good coaches. Did you practice a lot? And who was your coach or coaches?
Mr. Bougier was the coach, and his assistant coach was Bill Darcy. So it was Mr. Bougier and Bill Darcy. But the coaches, there was 4 teams, and every coach was dedicated. We practiced a lot as individual teams. We didn't have too much time to practice as all-stars because once the season ended, we started the tournament. We had a few practices with Mr. Bougier, but they knew how to put people in places that would benefit. They knew that he was starting JoJo the first game with Billy Jow because he wanted Paul for the second game. They were always looking ahead. we talked about fundamentals, and we knew how to play baseball, even at a young age, because of the drills that we went through with our individual coaches. And like Tony was saying, a lot of the coaches were farmers. You know what I mean? So they would come, they would start their chores, come do the baseball game, then go back and finish their chores. So it was quite the effort on the adults in the community.
With the bits of dynamite.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to?
So what happened next after your moment of fame? What happened after that?
We lost.
Yeah, we were playing for the. Had we had won the last game, we had gone to New Jersey for the regional playoffs, and the next stop after that was Williamsburg. So Williamsport. So we had to make it to that round, and unfortunately, we ran into a team that had a super pitcher. He was probably over 6 foot, 6'2", very stout, and
He was 15 too.
50. Yeah, he looked like he was 15, but he just.
They have lax rules in Rhode Island.
I have to think he was probably close to throwing almost 90 miles an hour because he was fast and we couldn't catch up to the ball, and we had a rough start. We started the game out with a few errors that put us behind early, and then we just couldn't come around with any bats to save the day, and we just ended up losing 5-1. 5-1. Yeah, you tell him that.
The catcher for that team that we were playing in New Hampshire, he had a habit. When the batter would swing, he would put his fingers up behind his glove, and he would hit his fingers. So I get up at bat, I tell the guys, watch this. So I'm up at bat like this, and the ball comes, and I went like this. I didn't do that anymore. And I got my base.
Another question. So you both brought along scrapbooks. Were these books that you put together, or that your parents?
Yeah, my mother put the scrapbook together for me right from the get-go. So it is the only reason why, it's still something I could look at this morning and just start bringing some of these memories back.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Wally Zembo. I'm Carl's cousin, and unfortunately we couldn't find him. He would have loved to come today. And actually Jerry Bussier, who's the son of the coach, he was hoping to come down today, but he wasn't able to make it. But he just wanted to let you know that his father would have been very proud. And the other thing I wanted to say was, Paul, when we were at, I don't know which game that was, where you hit the home run at the end. Where was that? Hanson? And his mother was standing in front of me, and she was not very tall, and there was the fence, and when Paul hit the home run, she leaped over the fence from a standstill, and unfortunately she just caught her toe as she was going over, so she did a roll and got back up on her feet and met Paul at home plate. So, anyways, great to see you all.
Wally, thank you. I turned around, I saw Steve, and I think we should mention, we were talking about farmers before. Steve's dad, George, was one of the farmers, and one of the coaches for the Yankees, George Azevedo. Those are two, and Mr. Buzier, some of those folks. But those farmers, at that point, and no disrespect, I'm not sure if your dad knew the game or not. George did, but he would tell all these other farmers where the bases have to be. We had a snow fence in the outfield. We first started that. In a short period of time, in a few years, we had a team competing for the state. And the criticism was, these are farmers and fishermen. What do they know about the sport? They were right. We didn't know a whole lot about the sport. But we had an interest and a drive as a community to do that. And Steve, it's nice to see you here because I'm sure your dad would be appreciative of these guys and recognizing that he'd be here if he was still alive, I'm sure. So, I just wanted to mention that.
I was a few years younger than these guys, and I actually never went to any of the games. I do remember the whole celebration when you guys came back, and my dad went down there and saw it. And like he was saying, him and George, and I think maybe George Graham, they all built the field. You know, they brought their tractors and their harrows down there, and they built that field in the mid-'50s, I would think, or late '50s, yeah. And then, actually, when we were in high school, we built the lower field. The Aggie class built the lower field. Like in 1973, I remember picking rocks down there. We built that field, so I got to build one of the fields in town anyway. But like I said, I was younger than these guys, and I don't remember. But I think all of us guys in the South End, even before we played Little League, Miss Tripp taught us all how to play baseball. If you guys remember, we if you grew up in the South End of town, she was the principal, and man, she taught us all how to play ball when we were in first and second grade. You know.
And boy, you didn't mess around with Miss Tripp.
Where were the different fields?
They're at the right next to the old high school.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's the lower one that Steve's talking about. There's the high school field, and then at the other end of the high school field there was the JV field right, and then at the top of the hill is the Little League field. Yeah.
Which used to be girls softball.
Yeah, now it's a girls softball. Right.
Yeah, like, well, how come we never had a home game? Every game we played, didn't we play away?
We played one in Westport.
We did. The first game we played. The first one was in
That was the only one, though.
Yeah, that was the only one. After that,
You didn't have a good enough concession stand, probably. That was. You didn't have one, right?
no hot dogs, no games.
That's it.